Microsoft Foundry, you can build a custom AI agent, ground it in your documents, connect it to live tools, and wire it within a full workflow, all within one platform. Now, you might be watching this video thinking, there's plenty of other AI builder platforms like N8N or even Claude Code to build these solutions for yourself. So you might be asking yourself, why would you use Microsoft Foundry? Or you might already have a use case for Foundry and already baked into the Microsoft ecosystem and wanting to find out how to tool the interface and how to build a solution. So by the end of this video, we'll have those questions answered and you'll also get a full tour of the interface, and we'll build 2 simple agents end to end so you can see how it works all within Microsoft Foundry. I'm Howden, I'm a Microsoft MVP, MCT, and founder at Power Academy, where we help businesses utilize the Power Platform and Microsoft AI technology. And today I'm so excited to get into Microsoft Foundry because honestly, it's a technology that I don't think gets enough recognition within the Microsoft space. We speak a lot about Power Apps or Power Automate or Copilot Studio if you watch this channel, and those are all incredible tooling, but I think the lengths and the depth that you can kind of get into when it comes to building agents within Foundry is really unmatched across any ecosystem, not just the Microsoft one. So let's jump right into it with first doing just some explaining in what Foundry is, why it exists, some of the core capabilities, and the demo that we're going to be building today. So why Foundry actually exists in the first place. Here's 3 core reasons why, in my opinion, Microsoft consolidated their AI tooling into Microsoft Foundry. And the first one adheres to that point exactly, because it was to unify the segmented AI tooling that Microsoft had. We used to have Azure OpenAI, we used to have separate Azure AI services as well available to us within Azure. AI isn't a new thing. Azure has been supporting AI for many, many years. So this tooling at that point of time, made sense to be segregated in some capacity, in some manner. But now, obviously, with the revolution of AI in the past few years, Microsoft has decided that it makes more sense to consolidate that tooling within one kind of unanimous tool. Having multiple SDKs or multiple endpoints to try and connect to can get, very busy, very complicated, very fast, and Microsoft Foundry was really built to consolidate those solutions. Then the second point, which is to move teams from AI prototypes to production agents. So the core sell of Microsoft Foundry is it's an all-in-one tool, right? So it allows you to build the agents from scratch. It allows you to choose the specific model through a category of models, allows you to connect them together and then deploy and observe them so you can see how to make your agents better that are actually working out in the wild and in front of your customers. The investment that the platform is getting is that end-to-end process, right? And again, when we get into why Microsoft Foundry is kind of separated from the other AI tools, you'll understand that this process is super important in terms of moving from prototypes to production agents which are actually working and are optimized to work the best for your customers. And then the final point is to give one model agnostic foundation for the agentic era. Now, Microsoft Foundry's real value proposition is you can connect to pretty much any model that is created worldwide. It is all supported within Foundry. So if you want to use Grok, if you want to use Anthropic's models, if you want to use the GPT models from OpenAI, this is all available within Foundry. And they have an extensive list. I think they have over 1,900 different models, all unique in terms of their strengths and their use cases. So if you're looking to have more of a base of the models that you can kind of use and reach for, Foundry is the best place to do that right now within all of the AI tooling that I've experimented with. Now, I kind of wanted to talk about the end-to-end workflow that Foundry supports because the whole tooling rests on these 3 stages. To build, so picking a model, adding tools and knowledge, and creating the agent. To deploy something, so actually shipping something to Microsoft Teams or M365 Copilot, having authentication and identity built in and native within the platform, and then of course operating, right? So evaluating the quality, tracing what it did, and governing and securing the agent. Microsoft Foundry gives all of the tooling to support these 3 processes. And in general, this will be the agent lifecycle that you have if we're breaking it down very simply, right? You'll have these really complicated diagrams, but when we're talking about deploying agents and having useful agents, this is the 3-step process that we are going to need. We're actually going to have to build it, then we're going to have to deploy it and get it in front of people, and then we're going to have to operate it and make it better. To be honest, it's the trend through the whole of software development, not just agentic development. But I would say where agentic development really stands out and more emphasis needs to go on it, probably more than ever, is the operate area, because tracing and that kind of evaluation segment of agents is so important because you're having undeterministic capability baked in and you're putting that in front of people, whether that's in your business or customers as well. Now, some of you may have seen this cheat sheet, and if you don't have access to this, it's available in the Power Academy Success Kit, and there'll be a link at the top of the description for you to get access to this and all of my other resources for completing completely free. But this breaks down the differences of the core Microsoft AI stack that we have available right now. So M365 Copilot, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, which is kind of your ChatGPT chat style interface, built in for personal productivity or even very low grade custom agent development as well. Of course, this is something to be used more so by users and more so from a consumption perspective, rather than actually trying to build a custom agent completely from scratch, even though there are Copilot Studio capabilities within M365 Copilot as well, which brings us to the next tooling, and in my opinion, the middle ground between M365 Copilot and Microsoft Foundry. Now, Copilot Studio lives within the Microsoft Power Platform and is Microsoft's low-code tooling to build agent. There's going to be a lot of things that you see in Foundry where Copilot Studio is operating under that architecture, under the hood, but you won't see a lot of it, right? And we're going to get into some of those areas, like kind of creating your own resource group, indexing, adding, different documents and things. With Copilot Studio, you have a much simpler visual interface, and it's built for makers rather than developers per se. Whereas in Microsoft Foundry, you have much more granular access to what you're building. Now, you can have a read through this cheat sheet yourself. I'm not going to go over all of it, but the headline difference between the two is if you want full control, consumption, traceability, everything baked in to your agent. So once it goes into production, you can kind of have that granular access. Obviously, all of the benefits of Foundry as well, like selecting different models which aren't available within Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio has the Anthropic models, so the Claude models, and also the GPT models available at this time of recording. You can't go outside based off that. But if you really want that granular design, deployment, traceability, Foundry has everything, right? So Foundry is like opening up the hood of a car, taking a look at everything, whereas Copilot Studio is kind of like closing that hood and building your agent from scratch without seeing all of those different capabilities and not having the granular touch that Foundry has. I always recommend for companies to start with Copilot Studio because it is much simpler. It's more simple to deploy, it's more simple to govern in some capacity as well, and of course more simple to build the agents from scratch. You don't need as much software development knowledge as you would to use something like Foundry. And I always recommend this because it's so much easier to scale up to Foundry, and there is a scaling and extension capacity to Microsoft Foundry than it is to scale down. But I thought it'd be good just so you have an oversight of the Microsoft AI ecosystem so you can choose between this tooling depending on what you need. So feel free to pause the video, have a look at this cheat sheet, and if it's a little bit blurry for you, I can just zoom in, to be honest, so that might help. But if you do want access to this cheat sheet, it's available in the Success Kit. Again, top link in the description. Now let's talk about what's inside Microsoft Foundry and what makes the product that it is. So we're going to go through these layers, we're going to understand them a little bit. We're not going to go into them in depth because I do want to kind of go through and click through the interface because there's a lot to get through. But of course at the top we have the Foundry models that are available to us, and over here, as I said, it's that extension capability to other models, not just limited to Anthropic's and OpenAI's models as well. So we'll take a look at all of the models that are available. Then we have Foundry Agent Service, where the agents are actually built and run. You'll see workflow capability, and if you have experience with the new Copilot Studio, you will also see some similar capability with the workflow functionality that we're going to get into as well. So you'll see when the products kind of overlap too. Then you have the service row underneath, so all of the different capabilities within Azure AI. You have the observability layer, so you can actually trace and monitor your agents in a very granular level. Security and governance, of course, so you have all of these controls available to you, all of these platforms and applications. And then on the left and right hand side, you can see the cloud tools that you have available, like Foundry Local, and also Copilot Studio over there. So you can see the extension capability and overlapping capability of the two platforms. I just hope this visualizes the building blocks of Foundry and kind of what makes the platform so special in terms of all the integration capability within the M365 ecosystem, which kind of moves us to our next point, which is why would we use Foundry over other tools in the first place? There's Claude, there's Claude Code, there's N8N, so why would you build custom agents using Foundry? Well, when I had to think about this, because I get this question a lot from different customers and people inquiring about Microsoft Foundry and other AI tools, because I think more and more in software development than ever before, we're having this integration possibility just become so much easier, right? Because so many developers are using AI-assisted methods to integrate different tools together. So why have everything in one place? Why have one unified system? And the first point is it's one governed platform rather than having everything that you're doing yourself. And by that I mean, let's say you're using something like N8N, or you're using some sort of other agent builder platform. The truth is there probably are some traceability and observability settings available to you within those platforms, but it usually won't be to the lengths that Foundry has. Foundry is built on Azure, so the cloud interface available, and if we go back over here, the different tooling and applications that you can integrate with is at a much higher scale and much easier to integrate than it would be if you did everything yourself. And I always say with integration, you're building bridges, right? So you're building bridges within your platform or your service to another platform or service. And when you build those bridges, there's always the potential for things to go wrong. So when you're considering Foundry, just consider that you're investing in one governed platform that is constantly being updated and invested in by Microsoft rather than doing everything yourself. The middle point, honestly, I might get some backlash for this, but we can't deny that Microsoft have built a trust and security layer like no other company in history. They are by far the biggest technology company in the world, and it really shows through all of the integration that they've built over the years and all of the tooling within the cloud. People just trust Microsoft. So many companies are on the Azure ecosystem or the Microsoft cloud or using some form of Microsoft tooling like Excel or Dataverse or Power Platform. So having that baked into your product and not having to justify another tool like N8N is a really nice layer to have on top of your justification. And in the last point, having that model choice plus the Microsoft ecosystem gravity, right? So I always say one of the main kind of value adds, especially since Copilot still and was going through its phase of, being criticized and scrutinized quite a lot, is Microsoft always have a very unique position within the market where they own a lot of the market, as I just spoke about, right? So you have that whole ecosystem. You have different platforms, you have Excel, you have things that are already built on Azure that can be integrated into tools like Foundry and of course scale over time. So this is also another huge benefit of using Foundry. Now enough talk, we are going to go into our demo now and we're going to build a Microsoft documentation assistant. Okay, so something very simple. I have this very simple diagram over here to show how this will work. We'll have an input. Someone's going to ask a specific question about the Microsoft AI or Power Platform space. The agent is going to have tools associated to it, instructions, and the LLM layer that we're going to choose. It's going to call on the memory and the actions that it has, and then it's going to give us a structured output based on our documentation that we grounded on. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this is the first place we're going to start. So to come to Microsoft Foundry, we want to go to ai.azure.com. And the first thing you'll notice is a very modern interface. So I always thought Foundry looks quite cool in comparison to some other tooling. You have some of the latest models here available, and depending on when you're watching this, Claude Fable, which I think is locked now, and then also Claude Mythos, which is gated for research preview. And you can see you have these different capabilities all available here. Now, the place that I would start is always here in the top right. You might have seen that there's a new Foundry toggle. And I always recommend any new agents be built in the newer interfaces, no matter what product you're using. So the first thing we want to do is enable the new Foundry area. So we're just going to click on this, and you can see the first thing it's going to prompt us for is to create a new project. If we go ahead and click on this drop down, we can create a new project. You can see I was demoing this earlier, so I've got this already enabled, but I'm just going to create a new project and I'm going to give this a name. I've called this Power Platform document demo, and you can see I've opened up the advanced options here just by clicking onto this. And I just want to show you this really quickly, not to confuse you, but just to show you what this is doing behind the scenes. So behind the scenes, you can see it's going to create us the resource, of course, and this resource will be stored within your Azure resource group. So if you don't associate it to an already existing resource group, it will just go ahead and create one new, and then you associate that to a particular subscription. So if you're familiar with Azure, these concepts will all make sense to you. Of course, we have region as well. We have 2 AI Foundry recommended, so I always recommend for people in Europe to select Sweden, and for people who are in America, of course, to select East US, which can select Sweden because that works for us. Please do understand as well, if you do select any one of these other locations, there might be some areas which aren't supported. So something to consider and read through in the docs to make sure you know what you're getting with your region, because you don't want to be locked into something that, you're trying to build a solution, you're trying to work towards something and you can't because you're constrained to your region. So just make sure that that is considered for you. But right now we're happy with this, and we're just going to go ahead and click create. And now it's going to set up Microsoft Foundry for us. This may take a few minutes, so we're just going to be patient, wait for this to go through, and then we're going to tour the interface of the new Foundry. Once the project has been initialized, you can see we're going to have these pop-ups in terms of what's new within Foundry. It gives us a bit of an orientation. We can just skip these through because, that's what this video is for, but here's going to give us the endpoints, so the enablement to actually connect this agent through an API key, and you're going to need these different links, but you can find them later when you're actually exposing your agent out there to your customers or your users. We're just going to press next. And then you can see you have this AI pane as well, which I think is quite useful. I don't personally make a lot of use of it myself. I just use whatever AI tooling I'm using in that moment to guide me through the interface if I need any support. But you can just press Ask AI or Control K to start the search and ask AI about the different interface and what you're seeing. What we're going to do is we're going to select Create Agent to have our first initial experience of creating an agent within a project. So we're going to go ahead and click on this. And you can see the first thing it's going to prompt us for is the agent name, and I can't get rid of this. There we go. And we're just going to call this the Power Academy document agent. And we're just going to go ahead and create and open the playground. Once this initializes and creates our frame of the agent, it's going to open the playground where you're going to be doing a lot of your work developing and building and testing your agent. You can see now the playground layer has opened. Now, if you're overwhelmed looking at this, don't worry, we're going to go through each section individually, at least the ones that matter, in my opinion, so we don't overwhelm you with all of this information. But there's a lot of cool things available here. So the first place we are going to start naturally is the model selector. Now, if we click on this, you can see it's defaulted to GPT-5 Mini, which is one of the cheaper models. But if we go to browse more models, you can really see the value of Foundry here. So you can see we've got all of the models best in class available to us. We've got the Grok models, we've got the Claude models, the GPT models, and if we click next, we can just keep pressing next and it will take us through all of the specific models that it has. Now these are just featured, but if I go to creator time, you can see we're going to have even more pages available to us here. And what we've done is we've just removed the filtering so we can have access to all of the models. And if we scroll down, you can just keep scrolling and take a look at all of these from NVIDIA to Quen, to some of these companies I haven't even heard of. You've got Hugging Face here available as well, and you're going to see the wide variety of the models available to us. Now we have the Microsoft MAI models in here as well, so things like image and transcribe, and the reasoning and coding models are likely to be here as well eventually. For now though, let's say we're happy with what we've got, which is GPT-5 Mini, which is capable and also cost effective, which is nice. What we can also do is select this parameters area, and we can decide the text format that this model outputs. And then we've got this option for choose when to use tools, where we can decide if the model chooses what tools to use, so that generative orchestration layer, or to always use the tools. We've got a level of reasoning effort here as well. So how much is it actually going to reason? And of course, the higher you put this, the more it's going to cost you. So you can see you can really tune these models exactly how you want them. Now we've gone over the model layer, so let's go over the voice mode as well. Now, voice mode is a really cool experience because if I press this, you can see automatically I get this voice mode interface available to me. And if you've used GPT voice, you already know how this works. You speak to your AI agent and you can kind of have that back and forth available to you. Now we can select the speech recognition model over here. The language, of course, we have advanced settings here. Honestly, I don't have so much experience building voice models, but if you ever have this requirement, this toggle is available to you right within your agent, something that isn't available within Copilot Studio. Of course, we can create the voice and choose the voice as well. We can also create a custom voice. So you can see a lot of capability within voice mode available. But for this demo, we're just going to limit it to text, something we're more familiar with. I'm sure voice mode has its own architecture patterns, which are too complex to get into today. So we're just going to maintain voice mode for now. Then we have the instructions panel, which is self-explanatory, so giving our agent instructions, and we can also optimize those instructions. We have the tools section available to us as well, where we can add particular tools. And if we browse all tools, you can see what's available. Things like file search, work IQ, fabric IQ. And if we go to the catalog, we can see a more wide range of tools available like work IQ in Teams, GitHub, Cosmos DB, work IQ in Copilot. So you can see you can get very granular about the tools that this model can select as well. Within this demo, we are going to be connecting to a very simple Microsoft Learn MCP server to showcase the tools. But you can see this is all available for you as well. We of course have our agent knowledge section. And through here, we can connect to the Foundry IQ knowledge base. And for any of you who don't know what Foundry IQ is, it's the managed knowledge layer within Foundry. And it connects your agents to data and the web with citations without you building all of the retrieval areas yourself. Then if we scroll down, we have memory available here as well. And this lets the agent remember specific facts or preferences across conversations. And then we also have guardrails available if we want to add any specific guardrails to make sure our agents don't get jailbroken or anything like that. I'm going to close down all of these because this is kind of more advanced territory that we're not going to get into. But I want to take you over these top tabs over here in particular. So we have chat, of course, so we can come in and actually test our agent over here. We have YAML, so we can see the agent defined as a configuration file. And basically everything I just clicked within this tooling and knowledge is captured here. Then we have call agent, and this gives us all of the capability to call this particular agent from within our custom interfaces. I'm just going to go back to chat and we're going to go through the details tab. This just gives us the overarching details of the agent, things like the active version, the channels that we've deployed this agent to, and any routines you might set up, which is running this agent on a schedule. We have traces where you can get granular about testing your agent. It's basically a step-by-step record of what the agent did on every run. It gives you a nice debugging view as well. And then we've got monitor, which shows us the overall performance of the agent in the form of a dashboard. And we have evaluation as well, where if you're familiar with this concept in Copilot Studio, it's pretty much the same, where you can run test scripts to evaluate your agent while you're making changes. Now we have this left side panel, which basically we have everything available within Playground, but in more granular views. We're not going to go through all of these different sections, or this video will just get way too long. But we have deployments, which shows us the models and agents that we've actually deployed. We've got fine tune, where we can train our base model on our own data, so it specializes in our particular domain. We have tools, which we just went over, which are some of the tools that we connect to the agent, all visualized. Knowledge as well, similar to what we've done. Memory, data that we've connected to the agent, evaluations and guardrails, which we've all gone through within the playground. Okay, so now we understand the interface. Let's actually build this agent. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to paste this prompt that we have within our instructions, saying that you are a helpful Power Platform expert. Answer any questions using only the documents provided. If the answer isn't in the documents, say so rather than guessing. Keep answers clear and practical. So this is going to be the baseline prompt that it runs through all of the prompts that go through this agent. And if I go into optimize, it will actually take this instruction using the OpenAI algorithms and optimize the prompt for us. Now, since this prompt was generated by AI, I don't think it's going to give us too much of a difference between the instructions. I might be wrong. But this is a really nice way to refine your instructions and make sure the algorithm believes that it will work in a good way. And if it doesn't, it will suggest one that will. You can see our case has actually changed quite a bit, some of the wording, and we can see it highlighted in terms of what has changed. We're just going to reuse the prompt because who am I to question an OpenAI algorithm, which tons and billions of dollars and pounds have been invested in. And now Foundry has a prompt that this agent will run in. So if I just save this, just for safekeeping, and then I run the what do you do prompt and see what it gives us, you can see it's given us, based on the instructions, what we've said. So now what we're going to do is we're going to attach some files so it can actually help us based on the information we get it. Now, if I go to upload files, if you're used to Copilot Studio, you are seeing a bit of a different experience, right? Because in Copilot Studio, you just add the files, you add the names and the descriptions, and you can kind of go off. But here, again, a level where we're understanding these kind of concepts like indexing and vector, you can see that we're having to create index options and give the vector index name. Now, what these are, because we're not having a complete AI understanding lesson, but I think it's important to just understand. And when we upload these files, it doesn't just store these files; it actually builds this specific vector index. Now, if you're not familiar with indexing or a vector index, it basically turns these documents in particular into a format that AI can search by meaning instead of the exact words. So in this case, we're just going to say we're happy with this name and we're just going to browse some of the files. You can see here I've got 3 files already available, and these are just cheat sheets that I've built in the past. And you can see these are going to upload. And just so you know, the cheat sheets look something like this. So it just kind of breaks down different concepts and framing for different Microsoft AI and Power Platform tools. You can see all of these have been a success, so we're just going to go ahead and attach them. And we can see this is indexing now, and you can see it stores that particular index. Now what I can do, I can also go ahead and edit this and attach more files to this index. But in this case, we're happy with what this is. What we're going to go ahead and do is start a new chat by clicking this button, and we're going to ask it one of the questions that align with something that we have in the document. So what AI concepts should I learn in 2026? And we're going to send that through. And what it should do is give us the citation for the grounding that it's used, which should be the documents that we've just uploaded. You can see it's giving us a response, it's breaking it all down, it's giving us how we can prioritize, and it's giving us all of the documents that it's grounded itself on. And if we go into read more, you can see exactly how it's breaking down some of these different areas. It just gives us a visual perspective of what's in those documents. Now what we're going to do is going to start a new chat. And what I now want to do is add a tool to this agent. So I'm going to go into tools here, and I'm going to go into add, and then I'm going to go to browse all tools, go into custom, and then model context protocol, or MCP. And something I've actually just realized is the Microsoft Learn MCP server is here. So we don't need to go into custom. We can just go into the catalog, add it from here, press create, and you can see it's going to give us an area to put the name. It's connected to the endpoint by default because we've selected it from the catalog, and we're going to go ahead and connect this. Then we'll see the MCP server surfaced here. We're going to go ahead and save this. You can see the versions updating, and I could go back and roll back to particular versions as well, which is quite cool. But we're going to test this MCP server by asking what the latest guidance is on building agents in Foundry. So we're going to go ahead and send that and see how it grounds its knowledge. You can see it's given us an output. Now, if I type something in like what's the latest guidance on building agents in Foundry and press enter, what it should do is ground on the documents as well as call the tools within the MCP server. So we should see that being called as well. You can see over here saying that the answer is only based on the documents uploaded. And this is because here we've added a prompt to say use only the provided documents when answering. So if we take this out, what should happen is we should have a different area. But you can see it's asked us if we want it to take any information from Microsoft Learn. So we're just going to say yes, use Microsoft Learn, and we should see it working now. Now, I was running into issues with the other prompts, so what I've done is I've just given a very specific prompt to use Microsoft Learn, so you can see the tooling working, and you can see it's giving me links, and you can see here it's used the Microsoft Learn MCP server. And something I changed as well, which I think is quite important for tooling, is when you select this ellipsis and go to configure, you want to set the approval setting for the tools within this MCP server. So for this demo, I put always auto approve all of the tools, but you want to make sure that the approval is aligned with the project that you're creating, of course. Okay, so now we've built an agent. We're just going to go ahead and save this. And now I want to show you connecting agents together using workflows. Now, a workflow is an orchestration canvas, so very close to something like a Power Automate flow if you're familiar with that. You have a start node and you have different nodes that get added to it, very similar to Power Automate, and you can call these particular workflows within your agent and your solution. So it's a little bit more deterministic. It's an area to capture data, and I'm going to show you how that works right now. So we're going to go ahead and go back. We're going to be in the agent pane over here, and we're going to go into workflows, which is currently in preview. We're going to go ahead and create a new workflow. We're going to go in blank workflow. Hey, this is Howden from the future. I thought I'd just come into here and just show you this document because it's something I noticed after recording, but it seems the visual workflows within Foundry, interestingly, are actually being retired. We can see here as a note as of December 1st, 2026. So the truth is you can build with the visual workflow designer, but it seems like Foundry are moving into more of a code first approach. Now, if we scroll down within this documentation to around the midpoint, here we've got a migration guide if you do have or decide to build in the visual workflow designer for any reason. We can see the first line is that Foundry is moving to a code first model. Visual workflows aren't necessarily disappearing as a capability. The orchestration patterns that you build visually are all expressible in code and configuration, so you keep them when you migrate. So if you're watching this video and you're interested in building with the Visual Workflow Designer, it is something that is still available now at this point of recording, but it is going to be retired later this year. So best to future-proof what you're actually doing. I'll leave this as a link in the description so you can go and have a read for yourself. But yeah, just thought I'd let you know that about workflows before we get into the section. But nevertheless, I think it's nice to understand what was already there, and then you can kind of envision the way that that would work in the code first interface. And you can see, very similar to something like N8N or the new Copilot Studio, we have our workflow available here. As you can see, we have different nodes available here. So things like asking a question, delivering certain messages to users. We have loops, values, and of course, we can invoke specific agents. So let's say we want to start this workflow and invoke a particular agent. We're going to go ahead and take this agent by clicking on it, and we're going to select the agent that we just built. So we're going to go here, and we're going to select the document agent. And you can see over here, we can select an input message and we can save the agent output message at a particular variable. So we can utilize what this agent has outputted and use it throughout our workflow. Let's say we're happy with this for now. We're going to come back to saving the output message as a variable, but we're going to go and done. You can see it calls that agent. And now what we're going to do is we're going to invoke a different agent for a different set of tooling. Now, I don't recommend this use case whatsoever. It's just to showcase the benefit and how to use Foundry. But what we're going to do is we're going to create an agent to take this agent's output and formulate it in a bullet point list. So we're going to go ahead and create this agent directly within here, which I don't recommend. I always recommend creating your agent in the pane that you're supposed to, because obviously your modeling and configuration areas are a bit more limited. But we're going to do it here just for the purposes of demoing. And we're going to call this Power Academy bullet point agent. Is that too long? No, I think that works. All right, so we're going to create that. And you can see what it's going to give us is a very consolidated view of the playground area where you can configure the different areas here. The only thing we're going to do is add a line of instructions to write the previous answer into bullet points. And just for jokes, we're going to say sound like a one-eyed pirate. I always like doing this just to show the power of instructions. And then we're going to go done. And you can see the agent will start the workflow. It will call our document agent, and then it will give us a bullet point summary sounding like a one-eyed pirate. So now we're going to go ahead and save this workflow. It's asking for a name, so we're just going to call it Power Academy bullet document flow, and then save. We're going to go ahead and preview, and we're going to see this workflow working over here. We're going to ask what is Microsoft Foundry, enter, and we should see this workflow coming to life. It's running this workflow. We can see it ticking along here, and you can see the output here on the right hand side. Now it's running the second workflow, and you can see it stopped for a second because it actually hasn't passed anything within its inputs. And you can see it's ran the Power Academy bullet point agent, and it said, R, here's the short of it, matey. I'm never gonna live that down. But you can see it's given us the bullet point list over here, running with the instructions of that particular agent. So hopefully this visualizes the workflow tooling for you, some of the benefits of it, and how you can utilize it as well. We've got traces, of course, here to monitor this particular agent and agents that are used within the workflows. Monitor as well, very similar, and of course evaluation. So we have all of this similar tooling that we do in Playground. So that was an introduction, a beginner's introduction to Microsoft Foundry, Microsoft's pro-grade tooling for agents and AI. Hopefully from this video you've learned how you can build, operate, and deploy your agents within Foundry, what's available to you within the system, and how you can build your first agent and test it within the platform. Now, we didn't touch a lot of specific elements like pricing, the SDK, and all of the extension capability. That would need its own masterclass in its own respect. But hopefully you now have a solid understanding of Microsoft Foundry. Now, if you want these solutions implemented within your business, or you're looking for any advisory support in the Power Platform or Microsoft AI space, that's exactly what we do at Power Academy. We help teams exactly like yours upskill and also develop these specific projects within Agents, Copilot Studio, and Foundry as well. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description that you can click. You can go ahead, take a look at the website, go to the For Businesses page, click a link and book a call, and we'd love to have a chat with you. And of course, if you're just watching this as a regular viewer and this gave you some value, a like and a subscribe would mean a lot to me. And of course, share this and pass it forward to anyone you think that this would be valuable for, because the more this gets shared around, the more this gets viewed, the more I know what you like and what I can keep doing for you. So anyway, without further ado, thank you very much for your time, and yeah, take it easy.